Hello, everybody. I'm Arnoldo Hurtado, and we're back on Northside podcast. And today we have a really special guest, an old friend here in Fort Worth. And we recently found ourselves together in one of these third spaces that we mentioned at Casa Azul. And I was like, let's catch up more and let's have a conversation with Choke.
Thank you
welcome,
so much
Choke.
for having me.
Yeah, thanks for saying yes.
I did.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
I'm doing good. I had a slow morning this morning. I was in my bed just answering emails and taking it easy because it's like minus 1,000 degrees outside. So, chilly. Just
It is.
trying to...
And so it sounds like you were having some comfort time.
100%.
I love it.
Yeah.
I try to get those when I can.
Yeah.
So tell us, for people who don't know, because there's a lot of people moving to Fort Worth, and there is a section of Fort Worth that knows who we are, but then there's another one that doesn't. Like, who are these people? Why are they talking to us? So why don't you tell us a self-introduction of, I know you wear a lot of hats, and I do too, so talk about whatever hat you want to talk about, all of them if you want. Who is Choke?
Well, Choke is an acronym, and it stands for Creating Her Own Kinetic Energy. And I'm an artist, an entrepreneur, an activist. Talk about hats. There's so many hats. World traveler. I live in a section of Fort Worth called the Fairmount, and that's in the medical district. I've been there. I cannot believe I've been there almost 10 years now.
Time flies.
I mean, for real. I can't believe I've been there 10 years already. And I've seen I've seen a lot of changes there since I've been there. And then also, a lot of people don't know this, that I have a ton of family here. Mm-hmm. So growing up, coming to see my grandparents and all my cousins, it was, they had homes in that neighborhood. And then it started becoming unaffordable and they all kind of got pushed out. But
we talked about that in our first podcast.
Oh, yeah?
Which you probably haven't watched it because we haven't put it out.
Oh, okay.
But we did touch about how I also lived on a Fairmount for a little while on Lipscomb.
Yeah.
While I was a teacher at OD Wyatt, and I lived there for to avoid traffic from Northside.
Yeah.
And yes, the changes are crazy. So tell us a little bit about the changes you've seen, and then we'll talk more about some other stuff.
I've seen all of it's been good. I can say, actually, let me reframe that. Not everything has been good, but what I have seen is I've seen a lot of growth in the entrepreneur section. So, and there's a really tight-knit entrepreneurial community there. And I really value that. I value that we all kind of look out for each other. We all, consistently meet up on a regular basis. And there's a good flow of traffic for support. And I've also seen a lot of people kind of testing out their businesses there and then growing. And maybe they move to a different part of Fort Worth, or they just kind of grow a little bit big for their space there and they venture out. But as far as the neighborhood goes, it has a special place in my heart. I mean, I was part of the neighborhood association during COVID there. And we were just trying to think of really fun things to do during lockdown and just to keep our own sanity. But it was really beautiful to see how the neighborhood kept together and we're just supporting each other throughout that time. I mean, One of the special things that I was talking about not too long ago was for my birthday, I was talking about how I had I'm used to having little Easter egg hunts for my birthday because it happens during Easter. And the whole neighborhood got together and they did chalk Easter eggs for me on their front lawns or on their driveways and sidewalks and stuff. And so I walked my dogs throughout the neighborhood and found all of them, or as many as I could. And people were leaving gifts and things. And it was just such a sweet time for so many people to be able to kind of engage online and through that way. But outside of that, though, there have been so many people being pushed out, my family included, some of my cousins and other people who have had homes there. It's just in the span of 5 years, the first 5 years I was there, I saw home prices rise like we all have seen it, but it was just astronomical in that time. And I was like, how are we supposed to survive here? If there are people in this neighborhood who work at the coffee shops or the at the bars and they're not making as much money, how are they going to be able to afford to even live in this very neighborhood that they're serving? And that was a really big kind of shift to see happen.
And is that a conversation still, or is that something that you have with people, or is it just an observation? Like how does is that a topic?
It is it's a topic. I guess in the activist space, it's always gentrification is going to be a topic for forever, and we see it happening all over the place. Don't get me started on Airbnb, but yeah, it's gonna forever be a topic. But I think at least there are some initiatives happening to maybe help that issue in some of the newer developments that are happening in the neighborhood. And I'm not the best person to speak on what all is happening, but there are some things that I'm seeing that are happening that are being built that are, lower cost rents, but that, are kind of helpful for people in this neighborhood who either have businesses or are working in these types of service industry jobs.
That's interesting. You brought up a topic that I actually participate in, Airbnb. So I'm happy to have that conversation. I used to shy away from it.
Yeah.
Because I'm also an activist, an artist, and I relate to you a lot in that sense. And I worry about gentrification. And, I had a lot of insecurities about being an Airbnb host in the Northside, where there still aren't a lot of them, actually. But then I realized, looking at it, and maybe this is me justifying myself, and I think we do that a lot. We justify what we do. Is that I'm a Northsider. I was born and raised there. If anybody deserves to profit from the neighborhood, it's me and my mom and my dad.
Right.
Like, that's how I justify this activity.
Right.
So I think there are nuances when it comes to these conversations, which I wasn't always very nuanced. And I think that's some of the things that we're starting to see as well as we age and we learn and start diving deeper into these conversations is that everything is nuanced. It's not all black and white.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about Airbnb, gentrification, there are two sides to everything.
Definitely.
Or many sides, 50 shades of everything. And it's important, I think, to touch on those and realize, like, what's the dark side of it, but also what's the good side of it. Because there can be. And in our case, our family's cases, it's really helped us.
Right.
My parents are trying to retire. And this is a safety net for them.
Right.
Like,
and eggs are like $100,
Yeah.
Like, it helps to...
And it's like, I'd rather see locals Airbnb their house.
Definitely.
Than, I don't know, like, trust fund kids who have no ties to the community.
Well, you're an ambassador for the neighborhood. I mean, you really have such a pride in Northside and just, like, want to represent it to the utmost. So to me, it makes sense that you would be hosting people to be able to kind of show off the beauty of the area versus being $1 billion corporation that's buying up an entire neighborhood. Right. That's what's happening. Right. And that's what's happening. So then how can an artist like myself compete with that? I can't. I cannot compete with someone housing, like that.
Actually, because they bought it all up.
Right. So you're right. There's differences there. And I've seen it around the world where, and I'm sure you have too, because you are a fellow traveler, but, back in, I don't know, 12 years ago or so, going to Thailand and, seeing an Airbnb, for me, I thought $10, $15 was a great price. That's amazing, But if the houses that, that I was staying at, maybe the next door neighbors, they've only had to pay like $50 in rent a month. And here I come paying $10 a night for 5 nights. They can't compete. The month it would be $300. Right. Yeah. So how can this house next door compete with that? And then they're seeing the upgrades. And then what happens, and I've seen this in Bali too, where there's like this kind of greed kind of takes over, where there's the next door neighbor is building bigger and larger, and they're like, oh, I want that too. Like, how do I do that? And then next thing you know, it spreads, and now things are like really now. And I'm not saying that it's not good to have an economic growth, but what I am saying is that people can become greedy in the fact that they're trying to raise prices that they've never seen before and not understand the implications of what that does, right? Like food housing, everything kind of starts to inflate once more money gets pumped in, and it's like this whole.
And we're starting to see it.
We're seeing
right
it.
now.
We're seeing it. I saw it in real time when I was in Bali.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it over the years, and I don't know that there's an infrastructure that can help support those who have been living in these types of places for so long. Like, are they going to be getting raises? I mean, Texas, what is our hourly pay rate right now?
Like
still
the minimum wage?
Yeah, minimum wage. Is it still at $7.50 or something like that?
It is.
So,
and then like if you work in the service industry, restaurants, they're like paying you $2-3 because they're expected to be paid by tips.
Right. So what
That's crazy.
is it?
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I'm just like, what is it? Like, how can we even keep up with that? Right.
So another thing is you brought up the topic of traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that because I was talking to Gabe about how the world is so much bigger than Fort Worth, and how in the U.S. I've noticed this sort of attitude of the U.S. is the center of the world, and it's backed up by other people outside of the U.S. They're like, yeah, you guys really think you're the center of the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that is kind of the attitude. So do you see that?
Well, I'm originally from Washington, D.C., so like I also kind of grew up with that kind of mentality of like Washington, D.C. and the White House and the Pentagon is the center of the universe. Like, everything is determined by what happens there in there, and it like reverberates around the world. It has this ripple effect around the planet, as we see every single day. But yes, the world is a lot bigger than what we even understand and what we know. I mean, we're seeing lots of new animals we've never seen before coming up from the bottom of the ocean. Like, I mean, we're discovering
they're reacting
huge,
to what
massive.
We're doing. They're like, "What are y'all doing?"
Right. They're just like,
y'all are messing things up. We're over here. We found out what's going on.
Yeah. I think it's really important, and I've always been an advocate for like taking a year or two to just travel the world and getting out of your comfort zone. Like, as an American, I think it is imperative that maybe outside of high school, you take a gap year or two to just travel somewhere. And I would tend to say alone, solo travel, because you get to tap in and tune into who you are, what you like, what is the world, what is your relationship to the world, what is your relationship to anyone and anything, and you get to learn so much about yourself and the world and people through that solo travel.
That's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because it's really hard to have a conversation about being outside of the US with people who don't know what that's like. And I try to do that even with family members, and they just look at me with blank faces.
Right.
Like,
I mean,
topic.
Vacation is one thing, right? Vacation is one thing, and then immersing yourself and really deeply traveling is like a whole different experience. And you, just like myself, have lived out there, and you know that, yes, there are, they prioritize, most people around the world, I would argue that they prioritize or try to, a quality of life and rest and relaxation, or a community, just having that time, like
family.
It's so family
big outside of the US.
for sure. I mean, we're born and bred to work here, so this is what we do. This is a job.
You said it.
Yeah,
existing here is a job.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we do here in this country is work. This is what this whole thing is. So, as an artist who is constantly thinking outside of the box or trying to break outside of this system, like how are other people living, and how can I exist in this space having those same foundations that I've come to know and love from around the world. And I think that, shout outs to like the NAP ministry. I think that at this point, even in my own activism, like I've centered rest also, and just how can I still be as radical as I have been all these years, but really promoting our health and wellness in this chaotic space that we live in. And so for me, I think that prioritizing that, like today, like I said, like slow morning, I was in my bed until before I got here, you know? So just taking that slow time and not feeling guilty, because productivity guilt is a real thing that we all have. If we're not doing something, we are failing, or we're not producing enough, we're not doing enough. And you can go to Italy and have like a 5-hour cafe visit and be just fine.
Okay, that right there.
You know?
So I was telling Gabe, in Spain, they invented the siesta.
Yeah.
Like, that is a nationwide, countrywide activity. And it's not necessarily napping. It's also going to a cafe and visiting with a friend for 5 hours.
Right.
Like, connection, human connection, non-productivity, existing, sitting, chilling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Vietnam, I loved Vietnam for so many reasons, but there from like 9 a.m. to about 4 p.m., everything's kind of shut down because it's just so hot.
And that's why those hours siesta. Yeah. That's why it was invented, because it's the hottest hours of the day.
Yeah, it was so hot that they were just like, we're not doing anything out here. It's too hot.
Right.
And it's fine. It's okay. No one's checking for you. Yeah. They understand. I'm not outside because it's too hot to be outside. I'm gonna be inside where it's nice and cool. I'm gonna be in front of my fan, hanging out with my family or my friends, or having an iced tea with the other old men down the street, and we're gonna play cards or whatever it is.
I love it. Exactly. So I haven't been to Bali, and you were just there for quite a while, no? So tell us a little bit about that. What were you doing?
I was trying to do as little as possible. But I ended up doing so much. I was there really able to unravel and allow myself to really deeply rest. And for the first maybe 6 months, I was like having that productivity guilt, and I would wake up and be like, okay, so what are we working on today? I have to work on this content. I have to create this, and I have to do these things to show people back home that my tea, because I launched my tea company and then I left the country, which it's like, well, what? So I felt the need to be able to promote that tea company as I was over there. But what ended up happening was just that I just needed to sleep and catch up on all the rest that I haven't had since I was a teen. Since I began working. And I started challenging myself, like, okay, well, how many naps can I take? How many massages can I take this week? How long can I go and hang out at this waterfall?
Also, I want to stop you there, because there's so much there.
Yeah.
Like, and I think what happens, and I felt it too when you mentioned this guilt of non-productivity, and in a highly productive society like here, where you're expected to go, and then you take yourself out of this context and you don't know what to do with yourself. You're just like, I don't know how to rest.
Right.
Like, in my head I want to, but I'm just so programmed to go. Yeah. And I think people pick up on that too. I don't know. Did that happen to you, where people are like, you're still, like you said, you want to rest, but you're still going? Right.
Well, the beautiful thing about there in particular, at least where I was in the island, was that most people are arriving there and they're ready and willing to release and rest and change. They want to have these deeper changing and fulfilling experiences there.
Intentional people.
Very intentional. So, they're changing physically, they're changing spiritually. They want to experience this deep sense of reconnection. And it, we talk about Bali being like a womb, and Ubud in particular being that kind of like motherly type of womb space. It's very green, it's jungly, it's like pregnant all the time, it's wet, it's so fun to be there, and people are eating, it's abundant, and that cafe culture there is really strong.
Really? Oh,
very strong. The vegan and vegetarian community is very strong there. Like you can find vegan, vegetarian and really good quality food there everywhere. And it's just, it really was beautiful to connect with so many people who centered that rest and that themselves more often than not. Like everybody there was coming to just be with themselves or be with other people who were centering that in their lives. And then coming back to America to see everybody shoulders up here and, you know, just really tense. And, you know, we're all, you know, our schedules are crazy busy. I mean, you called me and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll come and record your podcast. I'm free, you know, because I intentionally have
that's awesome.
days that I have nothing on the books
Right.
on purpose. I don't want to be that busy. And I used to be a workaholic. Like this is, you know, I'm a solo entrepreneur. I don't stop. So, you know.
So coming back, you just, a great segue. You came back. And so how is it for you navigating that of rest and then coming back to Fort Worth? Let's talk about that in Fort Worth in particular.
Yeah. And I want to hear from you too, because I want to know like how has that been? And I'm sure we have some similarities in this, but this is still, to me, I think Fort Worth is so beautiful because it really does have that large city, small town feel, and it's maintained that still to me. But then again, I am from other larger cities and have lived in places like the Bay Area or Miami or, you know, Washington, D.C. and things like that. So, you know, for me, I love that I've been able to come back to a place that doesn't seem like it's too wildly crazy busy, but it is if you already know the community, because there's always something going on. But that's the beauty about this particular place here, is that the community aspect is so strong. So, and there's so many overlapping circles of people that, you know, you can go to one place and know like 3 people that are in this room and be like, oh, I saw you over. Yeah. Okay. You know, constant connections. But as far as rest and relaxation, I have to schedule it, because if not, then I won't get it, because I find that it's so easy to fall back into the rat race because you're around it all the time, right? So if everybody here is busy and they got all these things going on, I start feeling guilty. Well, why am I not as busy? Maybe I need to, but I don't, because I choose not to. And I work smarter or differently. Maybe not smarter, but I work differently.
Oh no, I think it's smart.
To be able to kind of have these moments of downtime.
And do you think people notice it? Like, do they feel that energy from you?
I think so. I mean, at this point, I've come back and I'm hosting tea meditations. I came back wanting to just be quiet. I want to share with people the amount of quiet that I was able to find going out there with this tea and spending time in the temples and with the monks and doing Vipassana meditation and things like this. But, you know, taking that intentional time for quiet and just stillness it changed my world. And it's something that I've been working on for a long time, but I see how much we need it here. And I think for me, that's probably the greatest gift that I can give to our community, because look at what we're living in right now. Like, if you close your eyes, there's like news stories scrolling, and there's so much going on inside because we've been looking at it or reading it or hearing it or talking about it, that we just need to shh and just be quiet.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and for you, like, how has that been for you coming back? And I mean, I know you're still going back and forth, which I think is genius, because 6 months on, 6 months off is a great way.
And it's starting to pick up. So, and I think the reason for that is that I've been sort of, and I use this example of investing my time wisely. At least that's what I consider for me, looking out for myself. I burned out some years ago. I don't know if I shared that with you, but I burned out. I was doing a lot of work, free work.
Yes.
Because community work, for the most part, is going to be free.
Yeah.
When you're trying to build that, and there are no resources, and the system is set up to help some people and not others.
Right.
It's systemic, and I think Northside falls under that. But as time comes by and progresses, the Northside has become a place of speculation. With the stockyards, Panther Island, all of it, you know, it's squeezing, it's pinching from all sides of Northside. It's like the last place that's still semi-affordable. And I think because of that speculation, there are starting to be more resources and opportunities, and some of them pay. Uh, we're still not at a sustainable place where you're like, I
Right.
can live here. But by that point, I'm just like, I've seen too much. I've seen the
Yeah.
world. I don't know that I want to put all my eggs in this basket.
Mm,
Not at all, girl. Especially
mm-hmm.
knowing the dynamics that exist here, the characters that are here,
Mm-hmm.
and the systems that are in place. I would never put all my eggs in this basket.
Right.
As much as I love it because my family's here, I was born and raised here, but I feel like I know too much as
Yeah.
like a local of
Right.
how things really work.
Right.
I feel like Fort Worth is putting on a performance.
Mm, mm-hmm.
It's very, I mean, we live in the US. It's the
Right.
entertainment capital of the
Of the
world.
world.
So every city is already part of that system
Right.
of entertainment. So they'll put on a really good act
Mm-hmm.
and they'll try to enchant and attract people, and it works.
Right.
You know,
It
now
is
you have these
awesome.
marketing efforts like Visit Fort Worth, Visit Dallas, the film industry, Landman, trying to paint Fort Worth a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's working. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great because it does bring new characters that are, well-meaning and beautiful. I love people.
Right.
But it also brings all sorts of characters. It brings greed.
Right.
It brings the best and the worst of
Right.
people. And so all of that is starting to like really bubble up. Um, but I'm focusing more on the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think how the way I changed is I've narrowed down what my lane is,
Yeah.
and I'm staying focused on what my needs are,
Mm.
and really good at cutting out the BS
Yeah.
and the
Good.
characters that come along with that.
Right. Right.
So that's where I am.
Yeah.
That's the growth I've seen in myself.
Right. Yeah, that's it's a beautiful thing. I mean, if you can recognize where to cut the dead weight and the things that you don't
So we
need
can
in your
fly.
world.
So we can keep
Exactly.
flying,
Right.
right? And you and I love to fly,
Right.
right?
I need these planes to agree with us on
Oh
this.
my gosh.
Oh, so scary.
Yeah, no.
Oh man.
But the world is beautiful. The world is a
Yeah.
beautiful place, and that's what I try to remind everybody and encourage people to get out. Especially, like you said, as Americans, we have that privilege.
Right.
That's an inherent privilege that we have that a lot of people in the world don't have. So I encourage people to
Get that passport.
get that passport, get out there,
Right.
and use that privilege in a beautiful way. Learn, because
Yeah.
traveling is learning for me. It's
Right.
not. It's not, I'm going to teach you what America is. But no, it's
Right.
like humble yourself, go out into the world, and say, I know that you have a lot to offer. I want to learn.
Yeah.
Like, can I be an observer? Can I be a participant? Can I like learn
Yeah.
from you? Because the world has so much to offer.
Yeah. I mean, it's the way that we are able to coexist. That's, being here in this country, we are a mixing bowl of all the cultures. So, I feel like the only way for us to really coexist with each other is to go out and learn about your neighbors. Go out and learn, about different customs and cultures, because otherwise people form their own opinions about like why this culture does this thing and why does this culture do that thing and why is this like this, and that's not helping anybody. Maybe if you have some understanding of why this thing is this way and this is that way, then you would be a little more easeful in the neighborhood or in the community, having understanding. And it is humbling. I mean, we're landlocked. Well, we're not landlocked because we have our, the Gulf and things like that. But, up here, we are landlocked in this area.
Texas.
Yeah, North Texas is landlocked. So I encourage people to go sit on one of these oceans and be humbled by how expansive and how beautiful the ocean is. I mean, you see these waves, you're not messing with that. You will calm right down.
It'll
And
put
by
you in your
hearing
place.
it, right, it will. And, or even just flying over the ocean is a trip. Yeah, it's indescribable to me. And I love world travel. I love to see what other cultures, and then being able to bring things back, meaning ideas or just different ways of understanding the world and how people are relating to each other, I think is really valuable. And bringing those aspects back to our community,
Right.
it's necessary, like
Especially in these divisive times, right? Like
Right,
the
right.
machine is really trying to divide us right now.
Right.
And so we have to work hard to really come together.
Yeah.
Right.
And it takes people who have traveled and seen and done to be able to change a place for the better, you know? Like if you've only ever known like this small town and its ways, and you've never seen how any other place is evolving and growing and how they think, then this town is just going to be stuck in the whatever era it was left in,
Right.
and it's just never going to grow. So
And
it
it's gonna
needs
have
people like us.
consequences,
Right. It's going to
right?
need
It's gonna
people
stay in
like
the
us.
past, and people are not gonna want to go there.
Right.
And there goes your economy.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But
So we are coming to the end of this conversation, this beautiful conversation. I wish we could stay longer. But like we mentioned, there's like
so
go,
many
go,
things.
go, right? When
Yeah.
we're here, it's go, go, go. But wonderful to have you. We're going to catch up soon. I'll be back in April.
Good.
So we can continue this conversation.
Definitely.
And is there anything that you can share with the audience about learning? I'm sure people are listening and watching you and they're like, I want to learn more about this person. So how can they learn more about you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at CHO_KE. You can find out what kind of offerings I have going on. I'm always doing community stuff. I'm always hosting conversations or tea times, like social interactions. And I just put it out in the universe the other day. Something that I've been wanting to do for years is open a tea house. So I would like to just kind of get that ball rolling and kind of in the atmosphere so that I can
Putting it
do
out
that.
there.
Putting it out there. But yeah, I have lots of things going on and nothing going on because
Wonderful.
I like my rest and I like my sleep and I love my bed.
That
So
balance. And with that, thank you very much.
thank you so much
We'll
for
talk
having me.
soon. And everybody, stay safe, stay warm, and stay tuned for the next episode. Hasta pronto. Ciao.